This video is on imposter syndrome. We will talk about what it is, our personal experiences with it, and our ideas on how to manage it. Around 4 years ago, I remember playing a song I wrote on the guitar in front of the school.
Well, would you look at that handsome stud?
I have no idea how I even managed that. I was terrified of presenting something that personal to me in front of an audience, whether it was 3 family members and the family dog, or 300 students. I remember getting an applause and cheers. That was the most alien feeling. Surely my performance wasn't worthy of that response. I hadn't heard the term back then, but now I know my feelings resembled something called imposter syndrome. Google defines it as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. Around 1 week ago, my business partner Willow and I did a presentation on imposter syndrome on the BioCord Discord server for their winter symposium, a collection of presentations done by doctoral students, among others. A link to their server will be in the description. We've both experienced imposter syndrome, so you can probably imagine the irony of doing a presentation on the topic while simultaneously feeling like an imposter. It was relieving to know our audience could relate and found our thoughts on the topic interesting and engaging. That's got to be the greatest validation of all. Willow and I decided to upload our presentation, so some of you can hopefully relate to it and benefit from it as well. Let's get into some of the history of imposter syndrome.
Amos and Clarence were the first people to notice this syndrome. They were treating mostly women, and they noticed among the most successful women that they had a lot of feelings of fraudulence and a lack of confidence in their ability. What was interesting was that even if they achieved more or got more recognition from other people, this feeling of being an imposter persisted. So despite their numerous achievements, they experienced this lack of confidence and a feeling of fraudulence. So from this finding, the phenomenon was then observed, and now it is known as imposter syndrome. It has a few other names, but I think we all know it as imposter syndrome. The majority of people affected tend to be high achievers, and more specifically women. There is a huge community of people who are in the minority groups, and I think the reason that they experience this is because there's a lack of representation. So if you don't see people who are similar to you achieving, you also feel like maybe you don't deserve it on a more subconscious level.
Willow then went into some of the signs of imposter syndrome.
If you look at it, there's a lot of denying compliments from other people. You will avoid going into new opportunities and going for advanced positions because you feel like you do not deserve them. There's also feeling in general like you're faking it, like you're a fraud, that you are the imposter. And there's also an inability to identify your strengths. So you will find it difficult to say, yes, I'm good at this, or I'm great at that, because you feel like every time you achieve something, it's by fluke or chance, rather than something from yourself.
She then went into the imposter cycle to show how these feelings reinforce themselves.
So initially it starts off with a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. Can I do this? Am I capable? Do I belong here? Then to cope with this, you either over-prepare or you procrastinate. If you procrastinate and do things later, then you attribute everything to luck. Whereas if you over-prepare, you think that, oh, if anyone else put in this effort, they could have achieved it. So once you've finished something, you feel a little bit of relief. But after the relief comes, if anyone is to praise you or if you were to achieve any kind of reward, you will discount all of that. Again, either saying it's effort or you will say it is luck.
In the original presentation, we globally covered some of our experiences with imposter syndrome, but for this video, we decided instead to record some personal anecdotes to make it a little bit more comfy and warm. I'm going to play each anecdote in succession without commenting, but add a visual in order to indicate that the next anecdote is starting. And after that, we're going to go over how to deal with imposter syndrome. If you want to skip ahead to that section, then please go to the time shown in the video right now.
I think I had to do an entry test or something. Somehow I did really well in that. And then I started taking home awards. But now I've been so used to getting negative feedback from my teachers, I just didn't even bring the positive feedback home. I didn't show my dad any of the awards. I think he found out one day when he told me to empty my suitcase, and there was the first award. And they put them in a special box or whatever. I never saw it again, so I didn't think that that's important. I'm like, okay, fine. Someone made me go up on stage, do this whole rigmarole of a ceremony.
That's one way to sum it up.
You know, everyone's looking at you, and I feel like, oh my god, they're gonna watch how I walk funny, because I think that was one of the other things that I used to get teased about when I was much younger, is that I didn't run properly, because I had motor difficulties with my dyslexia.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, here's another place for me to get ridiculed. We now have to go up on stage, I have to fetch something from someone. And when I didn't fetch them, then it was even worse. Then they would call me to the school office, and then people would, snicker under their breaths, oh my god, why is she going to the principal's office? And then it's just to fetch a freaking certificate. I mean, I couldn't differentiate between the positive or the negative feedback anymore.
Yeah.
It became so internalized that everything external was never good enough. Well, I didn't feel competitive. Everyone else around me I did feel was competitive to an extent. Everyone is trying to get the top marks, and it was just a very, very different experience. And then, I don't know, I think I got top 10% of the school every term. I'm having to fetch a certificate every quarter of the year. I don't know how many of these certificates I've racked up for different subjects, I don't know, I think I got a diligence award basically every single year, and I'm like, I'm not even diligent. I didn't even do my homework. Everyone has expectations of me being like this good child who did her homework all the time, and every time like homework was due or something, I would do it in the class or just before the class or during lunch. Sometimes I'd even wake up at like 4 a.m. just to finish something halfway, just to show the teacher I did something. It was just, I don't know, it's not something I ever did. And when I studied, I just read over my content. I tried to make sure I knew the knowledge, the content. And I always felt different from everyone else because I felt like they knew every single scrap of content there was in that textbook. I think the one time my mom, I told her that the stupid certificate wasn't fitting in my bag. And then she's like, what stupid certificate are you talking about? And I think I just received a silver certificate. Now, usually I get gold certificates. It was just the one term where I had to hand in something essay related, and I'm like, oh shit, it's a silver one. Everyone else has got gold this time. Here I am with my silver one. And she took it out of my bag, and she put it in a frame. I'm like, are you sure you want to frame this one? I have a gold one waiting in my backpack back home. So looked at me shocked. She's like, no, we're framing this one. This one's good. It doesn't matter about all the others. You did really good this term, and we're framing this one. I was shocked. I was like, what? Is this recognition? What does it mean? Like, why do you care about this one? I find a job, and I asked for something office-wise, just doing office work. I thought, okay, I want to find a general average company. I want to fit in. I'm going to blend in. Everything's going to be fine. And then the company that I finally get a position in was working with major film industries.
Oh.
And I got there. And the interview isn't for a small position either. They're like, we want you to be an office manager. And I'm blown out of my mind. I'm like, you want me? I'm like in my early 20s to be the manager of an office working with massive sums of money for major television and film industry companies. I was sitting there like, I need time to process this. But anyway, my mouth was moving before my brain could catch up, and I said, I don't think the hours work good for me. And I think I wanted to kick my foot on the table at that point. I'm like, oh my God, how could I just be so rude and say this to their face that I don't think the hours are going to work?
In this next section, Willow broke down overcoming imposter syndrome into 6 steps, which can be seen on the screen right now. Let's get into the first step, understanding self-esteem.
Self-esteem, contrary to popular belief, actually varies from day to day. It is not something that you feel good all the time or you feel bad all the time. It fluctuates. All right? This is based on your emotional and mental state. It's based on the amount of support you have. It's also based on your performance itself. All right, this is regardless of your experience, your success, or your general well-being. And this is because self-esteem is linked to your emotional state. So having a low self-esteem is not an indication of failure. It's just another state of being. If you do well, you feel good, you have a higher self-esteem. If you do badly and someone criticizes you, you feel bad and you have a lower self-esteem. A lot of studies have shown that it fluctuates, that it changes over time, and it does not show how good or badly you're going to perform. So if you have a low self-esteem, do not take this as a sign you are an imposter. If you feel bad, it's just a bad day. Another thing to note is people with narcissism tend to have a higher self-esteem, and this cannot even hinder their performance. So trying to improve your self-esteem before you do something can actually not change your result at all. Unless you are a narcissist, which most people aren't, it's like 1% of the population, having high or low self-esteem will not change the outcome. It's just how you feel. And I think the more we understand that this is just a feeling, the better we are to cope with it.
The second step to overcoming imposter syndrome is developing confidence.
Confidence and competence come from experience and learning. As much as we want to be perfect before we start something, you have to learn to get there. And I think this is the most challenging thing when it comes to imposter syndrome. We believe that we have to have achieved something before we can even start. And that's just unfortunately not how it works. So you are not going to know the best and most efficient way of doing something, but you can start somewhere. As children, we handle this a lot better than as we do as adults because we have a lot of stakes in our performance. So it's better to take this as a learning opportunity, right? Build yourself up by taking each experience as something to learn from rather than criticizing yourself for lacking it. I liked this stairs that I included here. You start off with, I won't do it, I can't do it. Change to, I want to do it. Think about how do you do it. And once you start doing it and you start getting better at it, you will improve your confidence, you will improve your competence, and this will also improve your self-esteem. Take a knock every now and again, but don't stay down from it. This is a learning experience.
The third step to overcoming imposter syndrome is reframing the situation.
Now I want to talk about reframing the situation. So I have a little picture here. I think most of us have seen this if we like optical illusions, those kinds of things. And it says good, but it also says evil. Now, a lot of the time we think that if we are reframing the situation, we are going straight from evil to good. That is not how it is realistically. A lot of elements have negatives and positives, but there is a balance between the two. So you need to when you're reframing it, you need to think a bit more realistically. So I just want you to take some time for reflection here. I'm going to put up some questions in a little bit. And I just want you to think about this if you are struggling with imposter syndrome. Are you letting your emotional state influence the thoughts? Is your self-esteem and your confidence influencing what you're thinking about yourself? Okay, the next one. Do you really know nothing at all? I think a lot of us have some basis to know things, a vague idea of things. We don't start from absolutely nothing. Right. Does everyone have better or more experience than you, or is that just the self-doubt talking? Now, while I have these questions up and you're reflecting, think about another narrative for yourself. Go, I'm feeling bad, but that doesn't mean tomorrow it'll be the same. Or even if you do know nothing, I can learn.
Next up is the fourth step, self-compassion and courage.
So I want to talk about having self-compassion and courage. I think this is something that is very personal to me in general. But you have to remember that you are human. You are not going to be perfect. You are going to have mistakes. You are going to have a bad day. You are going to feel overwhelmed. But you have to practice having self-compassion for yourself. Going, I am not a perfect human. I've made a mistake. I can do better. I can learn more. I can take time for myself to care for me. This is one of the most difficult things to learn to do because I think we are so focused on criticizing ourselves. We are so focused on berating ourselves or performing. We don't take time to just recognize that, hey, I'm a flawed human being and things are going to fluctuate day to day, and it's just a learning experience. Build up courage with every setback. It's not easy to continue when you are struggling. It is not easy when you have made mistakes or when you receive criticism. But it is important to be courageous here and say, okay, I have had a setback and I can do better. This is very difficult as well to do. Getting up when you've fallen down, it's very easy to talk about, but not very easy to do. So you need to practice this in tandem. Comfort yourself. Do things to take care of yourself before you take the courage to take the next step up. You can take time to reflect on the mistakes, on the criticism. It's not an immediate process. You can take your time through this.
Now we move on to the fifth step, taking a leap of faith.
With imposter syndrome, we don't take a lot of opportunities. We think we don't deserve them. We think that we don't belong in a space. We don't think that we can be a better person. But I want to encourage you to take the jump. If you see an opportunity of something you really want to do or something you really want to become, take that leap of faith. Make that jump. You know, you have the power to learn and grow into whatever position you want to be in. If you take the jump and you land somewhere you can learn and grow. You don't have to be that most amazing person before you take the jump. You get there by taking the jump. Choose to take the opportunities when they come. I really want to push this point because a lot of the times you're going to think that you don't deserve to be somewhere, or that you cannot apply to a position you want to be in just because you feel like you're not good enough. Challenge those thoughts, take the jump, and make sure that you take the opportunity. If it comes, it comes. And opportunities don't come often. So please, have faith in yourself that you can achieve these incredible things.
And finally, we move on to the last step, the importance of interconnectedness.
I really want to stress this last point as well. We are social beings. To feel fulfilled, we need to belong and know that we are supported. Right? The current narrative is something that bothers me a lot. You see it all the time. All these news articles of successful genius of 12 solves the mystery of cancer all by himself. You know, we hear the garage story of Bill Gates or whoever else, Steve Jobs. And the thing is, none of these people achieved that alone. It's a nice flashy news headline, but it is not the reality. In order to be important and successful, you have to have that support around you. You have to be a supportive figure yourself as well. So do not feed into the narrative that you need to accomplish absolutely everything on your own. Some people are good at some things and some people are good at other things. It is important to take their feedback and to listen to your own experience and understanding and work together. It's a team effort to accomplish something. You get better results when you work together than when you work alone. So don't put all this pressure on yourself to be perfect at absolutely everything. It is impossible. Right? And the other thing I want to talk about is just successes and achievements that are shared are so much more impactful and fulfilling. I don't know if you've ever worked in a team where you got some result. It is so much nicer to go around giving high fives and seeing smiles all around and breaking out the tea and cookies than it is sitting there on the mountaintop alone. So not only do I encourage you to reach out for guidance and support, but I also encourage you to give guidance and support.
Thank you for watching our video. For those that have experiences with imposter syndrome and feel comfortable sharing them, please do so in the comments below. Lastly, for those seeking counseling or therapy services, or would just like to follow the rest of our endeavors, please go to couchtherapist.com or click on the link in the description below. Thank you.